Minimize you all.
Perfect. All right. So, welcome, one and all. Thank you so much for coming to our little webinar on our 21-day plant therapy reset. We are so excited to be bringing this. I say I'm gonna be participating and like being involved, but this is really Jamie's baby. And Jamie is a good friend of mine from grad school. We were each other's people in grad school, which was so fun. We practiced on each other as clients, which was too fabulous. And we've stayed connected ever since because that's been several years ago now. Jamie since has published a book, which is too fantastic. And I used to know what page I was on because I was that much obsessed with being mentioned in a book that was like had all these Amazon like top reviews and things like that. So Jamie's going to go over today about a little bit about herself, about the course, some general information, and then what we're offering. And then we'll wrap up with some Q&A. And I have several questions that people have sent in that couldn't be here live, and so we'll go over those as well. But basically, we're just here to have a great conversation and learn some stuff. So you are up, sister. Go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. And what Emily didn't say was that I am so grateful to be collaborating with you on a lot of levels. So sharing your clients, you're sending people to me and I get to work with them. Emily has a crazy long wait list. I spend a lot of time writing this book and doing other local food type work, as well as writing and research for a company. I was the nutritionist doing some stuff there. So I kind of had my hands on a lot of pots, and I'm excited to be working with clients. And I love, love, love leading group programs because I am so obsessed with community and connection. And we're so starved for it anymore. Excuse the pun. And I know it's all online. I love in-person food experiences when they're possible, but this is the next best thing. So I'm so glad to be able to offer this course through Nielsen Nutrition. So I'm going to jump right in and tell you all about. Oh, wait, why doesn't it want me to? Oh, okay. Introductions. Well, most of you know Emily. I stole these pictures off her website. And so, yeah, as she said, we went to grad school together. We met online. We're kind of neighbors. I live in Idaho, so it's dark outside. It's after 8. I've been up since 5, so I'm exhausted. But we have a lot of the same passions about helping guide people through all the nuances that most people in Western medicine aren't aware of. It's not part of what they do. And so we get to take that on and we dive down the rabbit hole of research. A lot of times I need to rein myself out of that sometimes. And one of the things that we keep coming back to is plants. So one of my recommendations, I swear, almost always is let's incorporate more plants. And oftentimes it's functional foods that are specific to a condition or a symptom, but a lot of times it's just we're not eating enough. And I'll get to that in a second. I call it plant therapy. A lot of what we practice is medical nutrition therapy, and that's a really fancy way of saying we actually listen to our people and we understand that there's more going on in our well-being than just the food we're eating, the diet and lifestyle, as functional nutrition likes to say. There is our environment, our relationships, our connection with our environment, and our food and ourselves. And so we fold all of that in. And I am a nature lover, kind of obsessed, and I have to get outside regularly for some nature therapy. But also I always come back to plants when I need support. Because it's so easy. They're abundant everywhere in every grocery store all the time. And I know what to do with them now. If you read my book, it's called Clean Food, Messy Life. And we can put a link in the chat if you want. But I was a vegan for a long time and a vegetarian as well. That's not what this course is about. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But I played with plants forever. I also grew up in the backcountry in Idaho. So we spent a lot of time foraging. And I still do that, but not quite as much as my sister because I'm more of the city girl now. But we have this innate ability to heal, and plants can help us do that. If you didn't watch the 6-minute video on the landing page, I get more into the dis-ease states that we're talking about in our work, from gut issues to neurotransmitter issues to sleep concerns to blood sugar imbalance. A lot of it starts with plants, weight loss. Oh my gosh, so many things. And so I come back to that a lot. Okay, I think this is crazy. I was just listening to a podcast yesterday, and this was already on my slide. And I think it was not Mark Hyman. Who was it? It was some doctor, famous doctor. And only 1 in 10 adult Americans meets the daily intake for vegetables. Only 1 in 12 meets the daily recommendations for fruits. Only 20 to 30-ish% of the US adults even consume a leafy green in a single day. So less than a third, a fifth to a third, which is insane. Women are more likely to consume fruit and dark leafy veggies compared with men. But essentially, this whole slide is about, like, we are not eating enough vegetables and fruits. Now, I added the fiber pieces in here because this program is not specifically just fruit and vegetable intake. Yes, that's a concern. And what about other plant-based foods, right? We don't eat enough beans and legumes and nuts and seeds. Grains are challenging for a lot of us mentally because of what we've been told about grains. Beans, a lot of people say, don't eat anything with lectins. We can break that down if you want in the course. But in general, fiber comes from plant-based foods, and we're really, really low in fiber. And the statistics show that the more fiber you have, the less disease you have. It's kind of amazing. So the long and short of it, eat more plants. What should we consume? This is the US recommended daily allowance values. And this doesn't really mean much to a lot of us because it's like, well, what if it's cooked? And what if it's this? And what if it's that? Other people will say, let's have 10 fruits and vegetables every day. That's another way of looking at it. So there's a lot of different ways to put a number on what we should consume. And I have should in quotes purposefully. What I come back to every time is, how do we feel when we eat plant-based foods, especially when we substitute more processed foods for the plant-based foods? Are we getting all the colors? How's our digestion? How's our poop? We talk a lot about poop in our world. And how are we feeling? Are we feeling alive? Are we feeling sluggish? What's the season? There's so many more things to talk about in regards to plants and our well-being than a number. So I'm just throwing that out there because that's what we have to kind of look at for a baseline. Michael Pollan is one of my favorite writers and researchers. I read, I think, almost every one of his books. His one book about that's tagline is "Eat food, not too much, mostly plants." And it was like a forehead slap to me. I'm like, duh. But I realized how few people actually eat real food and how many of us eat too much. Remember the mindless eating book we read in college, in grad school? Yeah, that's a good one. And then mostly plants. So this program is about incorporating more plants. We can still eat other things. Emily, do you like this picture? I stole this from our last gathering together at the American Nutrition Conference last year.
Okay, I did not vet this. Okay, all right. Now I have to check her work before she gets live.
You said you didn't want to see the slideshow.
Yeah.
So what is this all about? Who is it for? There really are very few conditions that I would be concerned about in terms of people that would not fit the profile, another quotes, for this program. If you have, I won't say who it's not for. Who it's for is most everyone who's looking to incorporate better habits, especially around our food. And the beauty of working with food and also the challenges is that we eat 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 times a day. And that's not even including our beverages. So we have lots of opportunity to talk about how to incorporate more plant-based foods. It can also be overwhelming. So the idea is we're not going to like dump it all on you at once where you have to change everything cold turkey or do a 180. It's just all about easing into improved meal planning and prep habits around incorporating more plants. Again, most people feel really well when they eat more plants. But if you go from eating 10 grams of fiber a day to 50, guess what happens? What happens, Emily? Bloating. Yeah, you feel terrible because the fiber, it goes nuts, and all the bacteria in our gut doesn't know what to do with it, and it can be very uncomfortable. So I don't think I've ever recommended anyone go from 0 to 100. So we're going to ease you into it, and a lot of it's going to be through thinking about your lifestyles. I would like to know all of your conditions, which is why we have the pre-program questionnaire. So if you're trying to overcome something specific, we can work with that and address it as we go through the live calls. But really, you guys, does anyone have any physical symptoms that they want to get over? Inflammation, pain, joint stuff? Yeah. Gut problems. What about emotional? Is anyone emotional these days? I've cried every day this week. Oh, wait, it's only Tuesday, and every day last week. So it's like, I think I'm going on 14 days in a row. It's just that time. Mental symptoms. We talk about mental health a lot in the medical world now, and in our nutrition world, we do too, because food plays a huge role in our mental state. So I won't read all of these bullet points, but I want you to know that if you have a health concern that you're like, well, what about this? Just reach out to Emily or me, and we will chat with you about it and make sure that you're fine eating more plants. You probably are. So we give tons of resources. You can use all of them or 2 of them. It's up to you. You can trust Emily and I to disseminate information in a palatable way. We've done this for a long time. I've probably talked about food my entire life. I've always been really into food, and it's fun to break it down into sciencey stuff now. You're going to get more personal knowledge. So even though this is a group course, you're going to learn so much about food, and the awareness piece comes up a lot in how I guide programs. So you're going to learn a lot about yourself and these foods. This is a safe space. We'll keep it confidential, but you can also ask anything you want. And there's going to be a group chat, so you can reach out, and Emily and I will keep watching that. Obviously, the food's going to be awesome because no one wants to eat cardboard crackers, right? Plants are so much tastier than some of the other foods on the inner aisles of the grocery stores. And mostly this is all about nourishment, So we're going to nourish the mind, body, soul. So here's some outcomes that people in the past program have gotten from this course: improved gut function, mood, focus, energy, sleep, better skin, and more importantly, a better sense of self. The empowerment piece is huge, because I know how few of us know what we're doing. I don't know how to do this. What do I do with this vegetable? I used to like it. I used to eat it. I don't know what to do with it. So a lot of it is building our own personal skills. So we reduce a lot of stress. A lot of people are really worried about, like, I don't know what to do in the kitchen. I don't know how to meal plan. We're going to take that off your plate for the next 3 weeks. And hopefully you'll get some awesome recipes that you'll carry through into the next few months, and more enjoyment in the kitchen, which would be super awesome too. Some people will lose weight because of the dietary shifts. Usually you don't see a lot in a couple of weeks. So that's just one bonus for some of us. But a lot of us feel lighter, and that's important too. Again, great recipes. A lot of these recipes are kid-friendly. My son and daughter have both helped me look at the current week 1 meal plan, and they're like, Mom, I don't want to eat that. And I'm like, well, I like it, so I'll put it on. But what about this? And so it's a lot of food that your family will like as well. Emily, I told you I was going to pause, and I think I haven't even taken a breath in 5 minutes. So any questions come up in the chat so far? No. Okay. Breath work is nourishment too, by the way. I was just talking about that today with one of our clients. So there are going to be 3 main things we'll focus on in the course. One is incorporating more plant-based foods into our diet, which is kind of obvious, and I've talked about it ad nauseum. 2, we're going to do some learning. Why does it matter? What do these plants do for us? And because of the beauty of Mother Nature, there's so much to share. So we'll give you kind of a snapshot. It's not going to be as in-depth as a graduate school course, which Emily and I would be happy to share more of that information with you too, if you have questions, but we'll keep it really basic, but pretty fun. And then 3, we're going to implement some habit change. So my goal is to have each of you decide on your own habits, and we'll keep those habits around our food, our eating, maybe meal planning, etc. So it's more focused to this course. But a lot of people have walked away with some really amazing awarenesses. Is that a word? And also really subtle things in their habits that they're like, I've been meaning to do this and I just didn't have the support or the accountability. And oh my God, it's changed my life. So careful, we could change your life in this course. So we're going to take it one little bit at a time. I say bite at a time. It's also designed for busy schedules. So I'll get into how the course works in the next slide, but you can do it on your own time. We do ask that you show up for the live calls. Again, I'll get into that. But it's really flexible. So the point is that we all have different dietary needs. We all have different lives. We live with different pets or partners and kids, and our schedules are all different. And so it's designed to be really fluid so that you can build it around your own life. So I hope that I can succeed at that. It was pretty good at the last one. Yeah, no special skills are needed, no fancy cook stuff. I don't even own an Instant Pot, you guys. I keep thinking I'll get one. So it's really not for chefs and foodies, it's for everyone. But if you want to go chef and foodie on us, please, by all means, you're welcome to. What are we going to learn? So I talked about all this great stuff we're going to learn. So of course, what's up with the different colors of plants? One of my favorite words is phytonutrients. And I hope all of you are throwing that word around at the end of the course. Phytonutrients is a fancy word for plant nutrients. So I just kind of gave away the store there. How plants are part of the connection between our outer worlds and our inner worlds. So I speak about this a lot. It's very near and dear to me that the way we feel inside is often a reflection of what's going on outside of us. So we'll get woo-woo a bit about that. And of course, we have the physical body that we're feeding, and we have the psychological body. So I talk about the psyche a lot. And so we'll break down some of our barriers to some of these changes too, psychologically, because our relationship with food is very personal. So plants can be therapeutic and nourishing. We'll talk about that, or they can be problematic and troubling. So we'll get into that more in the course. And then, of course, how to incorporate more plants into our lives. So our food lives, our environmental lives, and our food values, or plant values. There's a little note here about the questionnaire, because there's some, when you sign up for the course and fill out the questionnaire, it helps me with the live calls so I can address some of your other interests. Okay. So through the weeks, there's 3 weeks. It's not enough time. It should be a 4-week course, maybe 28 days next time, Emily. But we'll just break it down easily with red, orange, and yellow in the first week, green, blue, purple in the second week. I might slide white into that one. And then brown foods. Yes, brown and white are colors too. We'll talk about herbs and spices, but we will also talk about grains, legumes, seeds, and nuts. So I'm not going to forget those very important plants. Don't worry. We'll talk about science. So the first week, it's really about the body and physical health. And the second week, as we go into green, blue, and purple foods, we'll talk about the mind and mood, mental health. And then week 3 with white, brown, herbs, and spices, we'll talk about our spiritual and emotional health. And so you can see over here with the habit change, also, we've broken it down by the weeks. So we can take slow steps, right, toward habit change. We don't have to, this is not about perfection. It's about intention. So, whoops. Any questions so far? I know I'm kind of speeding through this.
No, you're doing awesome. I think everyone's nodding and agreeing along. And we were commiserating on how you can live without an Instant Pot. We don't know how it's physically possible. So maybe you'll teach us that in the course, like how to survive without having to plan ahead to thaw your food.
And I probably make my life harder actually by not having one, but the learning curve, I haven't wrapped my mind around figuring out how to use it.
Well, I love it. So simplify.
I've heard. Well, the reason I don't have one is I heard you can't make yogurt at the elevation that I live. And I'm like, well, why would I want an Instant Pot if I can't make yogurt at 5,800 feet? I mean, come on. So, anyways, side note, hence the no special equipment necessary, right? Okay, so the program works like this. We have 3 live calls. They're each on a Sunday evening. They're earlier than this. I think we've got it for 6 o'clock Pacific and 7 Mountain Time. I'm in Mountain Time. And we're going to talk about these different topics, which I just described in the previous slide. We'll have a Q&A. I'm going to try to talk for only 20 to 30 minutes max about the foods, the habits, and the body, the mind, etc. And then I'll hear from you and I'll be there to guide you. And Emily's going to be on those calls too. So it's not just me, it's you have Emily's expertise also, which is awesome. The 21 days, they're all divided. Each module is divided by the week. And then each week has 7 individual snippets that you can check in on. And each of those 7 sub days, I guess days, will have juicy information. So you can open it all on a Sunday evening before our call and read through the whole week. There'll be videos on each one, or you could take one each day. It really, again, depends on your schedule. So you get to decide. And then each week you get 1 meal plan. And these are suggested meal plans. I'll get into that in a second. You also get us via a group chat, which Emily's already set up. So as soon as you're in the program, we can start talking. And then if you want, and I highly recommend it, you get a one-on-one session with me. And if all of you sign up for one-on-one sessions, Emily's going to help me out. So you can get Emily too. And if you want Emily, you can request Emily, but I'd love to meet some of you. I think a lot of you know Emily. All right, we're also going to disseminate resources. So our resources are our best friend, right? When we get stuck, when we get lost, when we're like, what did Jamie talk about in that course? What was that? So obviously you get the meal plans. They include breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. I have dessert as a question mark because sometimes the snacks are dessert. I highly recommend eating dessert for an afternoon snack. They have shopping lists, and I go through a long list of how to modify and meal plan for that week if you want to follow it. You'll get worksheets. I'm tweaking the one about habit change right now because I want to make it a little bit more flowy with the course compared to the first one. So the beautiful part about running this again is what worked well and what can we tweak. And then you'll get these charts. Oh, I should have brought mine out, which show a bunch of information about the colorful foods. And then a bunch of bonus content. So some of that will depend on you. What do you want? And that'll depend on what comes up for you and what we have time for, and the pre-programmed questionnaire. So fill that out when you sign up. Okay, so the meal plans. And I know this is always the biggest question because they're like, do I have to follow it? And what if I'm gluten-free? And what if I have allergies and all that stuff? Obviously, that's super important. So this is what Emily and I do all day long. I can't tell you how many people stop me at the grocery store or the post office or hardware store, and they ask me a question about their food. And I'm like, well, sometimes it's simple. Sometimes it's not that simple. But basically, these meal plans, I have them mostly gluten-free, just because a lot of people are eliminating gluten right now, but not because I think gluten's not good for us. It's good. It's fine for some of us. That's another conversation. A lot of them are dairy-free or low dairy, but again, I make suggestions if you are swapping out dairy or not eating cow or sheep or goat dairy. There's options. There is definitely meat and fish on the meal plans because those are whole foods and they're super nutrient dense. And if you're a vegetarian or vegan or have an allergy well, most people don't have, well, some people have the fish allergies, then I have modifications. You will not see shrimp on any menu because I'm allergic and I can't even look at it in an image. So just saying, you can add that on your own, but it's not going to come from me. Okay. Let's see. These menus are not fancy. You might see like interesting combinations. You might see something that's like, oh, I eat something like that often. That's great because you get to build on what you're already doing. Others are really like foodie tweaks that are so easy and have been really popular with people who have tried those recipes, myself included, and often my kids. So you can choose to use the entire menu and be like, I'm going all in. I want to do the whole thing. Why not? I'm signed up for this course. I've used seasonal food. So the February one had different foods than this one. So we have this abundance of squash right now, for example, and tomatoes and peppers. So you'll see a lot of that on this menu, this particular meal plan. But again, these are suggestions. You can look at the whole thing and be like, I only really want to do the breakfast, or a lot of people seem to have challenges with dinners. But I had a client today, he's like, I don't know what to eat for snacks. So whatever suits your fancy, it's all about you. And then again, there are suggested optional changes to some of the menus. I know some people who want to follow them exactly, and some people who know how to tweak everything. So that's on you, and you get to use us for resources. Like, hey, Jamie, what would you use instead of, XYZ cod, for example? And why did you pick cod? Well, it's probably the meal plan that picked cod, but there it goes. And I've done some research on methyl mercury, so I felt like it was okay. All right. And finally, what is our investment in this program? Time is a big one, right? This is one of the big inhibitors of people signing up, time and money. So I'm addressing both of those here. Prep time. I make a suggestion in the welcome module to take a little bit of time to clear your clutter. It could be your mental clutter, it could be your kitchen clutter, it could be your dining room table clutter, but there's a whole lot to be said about clearing clutter. If anyone's into feng shui, you know what I'm talking about. There's live time, so that's 3 hours over the course of 3 weeks for 1 hour per week for each call on Sunday, which I mentioned already. And then there's time to review the modules. So again, each of the videos on the module is about 5 minutes, 4 to 7 minutes. And then there's a basically repeat of the key points to review, maybe some encouragement, etc. But each of the 21 days will have a 5 to 10 minute read or view. So you can skip some if you don't really feel like that topic interests you. Like, I don't care about blue and purple foods at all. Don't go there, right? And you can always go back to them later. You don't have to feel like you're not caught up if we're on week 2 when you've only watched 1 or 2 of the modules from week 1. And then commitment to habit change. So habit change is huge. And my goal is to keep it simple and easy and really doable, because that's what works. And the habit changes we're going to initiate are only a couple of minutes a day. I say 2 minutes because that's what James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, suggests when we're making habit change. And I found that to be really useful in my own life, but also with clients. Time to meal plan, shop, grocery shop, obviously. You guys are doing that already on some level. So I say enjoyment. No more time than your normal meal. A lot of us don't sit down and enjoy our meals. That's a really big challenge for some of us to like actually enjoy our food while we're working at the computer. So hopefully you carve out time to actually enjoy your effort. And then the investment of your attention and intention. And again, if your intention is to, eat 10 vegetables a day, the more you focus on the course, the more probable that becomes. If your intention is to just like, I don't even know what to do with these fall foods that I've been given from my CSA, well, attention to those foods is maybe all you need to do, right? So that's on you and totally around your schedule, and we'll help you with that. And then the financial investment is $375 for the 3 weeks and the consult at the end. So that's all scooped up together. And I think this is an awesome price. People are always telling us how we're undervaluing ourselves. Emily, we talk about this a lot. I love group programs because we can do that. And with all of us together, it makes it worthwhile for everyone. But if you were to meet with Emily or I separately, that's the basic price of an intake consult. So you get us for an hour and a half. You get us for 3 whole weeks on this course. So hopefully you have carved out some time and some money to invest in yourselves for the next few weeks, especially moving into the holidays. And yeah, get some real habit change going on as we think about Thanksgiving and all that jazz. So we hope you'll join us. This is one of the pictures I didn't use on my book cover, by the way, Emily. It's, yeah, there were plants in the middle of it. So I put it on the slide. It starts October 1st, which is really convenient because it's 21 days. October 1st is a Sunday and it ends on October 21st, which is a Saturday. And then the one-on-one consults will happen that following Monday and Tuesday. So that'll actually happen after the 21 days is over. So, whoo-wee. How'd I do? I got it all in. I don't think I really paused. Let's turn off my PowerPoint and open it up for questions.
Awesome. You're so fun. You can tell your like passion shining through. And I have seen the week one meals and some of the creative combinations I never would have thought of. I'm like so excited to try new things. I'm like, what is this weird thing she's got going on here?
But it's not
And
weird, like, I don't know what these foods are, right? Like,
no,
yeah,
it's like, oh, I can do that. Like I
I
haven't
never
bought
thought about
that.
that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I'll let you guys start with questions. I have like 5 that people have messaged me who aren't here right now of our 20 people that are registered and our 6 that are here or whatever. So, but you guys get dibs since you showed up. Questions, comments, concerns?
I'm reading the Instant Pot questions or the Instant Pot message. Nothing. See, I did cover everything, really. I'm that thorough. I'm amazed. Okay.
Could be. I'm gonna add some Instant Pot recipes in the chat of my own that are like I'll add some.
Well, we can do that. There's some slow cooker recipes, and I'm like, is that the same thing as an Instant Pot? I think that's a crock pot.
No.
It's
Yeah.
different.
You can't slow cook in the Instant Pot because it's a magical machine that
Okay.
does literally everything. It
I heard it makes
sautés.
ice cream. Is that true?
Oh, no, I don't think
No.
so.
Okay. Yeah. See, this is another reason why I don't have it.
Like there's too much information. Okay,
Yeah.
if you guys think of something, unmute yourselves and ask the question or send it in the chat if you want. So I think you've answered a lot of these questions already, but I'm
Okay.
still going to validate them by asking and double
Awesome.
checking. So one was, I have some food allergies. If there's something on the meal plan that I'm allergic to, can you help me with substitutions? In this case, I know the allergy, it's oats, right? So like
Oh,
can't eat oats. So
totally.
if there's an oat, can you recommend like yeah, make this with XYZ?
Sure. I can already think about, I think the very first breakfast on the first meal plan. And even my daughter was like, Mom, oats. That's the one she was like, I am not eating that. She does not like oats, but it's a steel cut oat with some frozen cherries. I figured cherry season's gone, but most of us have the frozen ones, hopefully, or access to them. And yeah, you can easily swap it out with quinoa or amaranth or millet or even rice. I think we underestimate rice in our country as a yummy breakfast food with some coconut cream or even some regular cream. Yeah. So for sure, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So done.
And
And
other
you kind of already
allergies
said
too,
that.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, people have funny ones like mangoes, or I had a cucumber allergy recently, that was a first. Shrimp, as I mentioned, we just don't touch it. No, thank you. But yeah, and I try to keep it. There are top allergenic foods totally on the meal plan: eggs, dairy, nuts, fish, some soy, but I think I didn't even do a tofu one on the first week. Sesame, there's some tahini. Oh yeah, there's tahini on one of those. Yeah, so they're in there. And then all the weird allergies, but I make notes about them. And then whatever's not on the meal plan, that's what the chat feature's for. And that's where you have Emily and I giving you some personal guidance for sure. That's
Perfect.
actually my favorite part about meal planning. And again, if you read my book, like I have this thing about, well, what are your restrictions? Well, what are your preferences? And people are like, well, I don't know. I don't, and I'm like, get picky, because it's creative work for me. And that's how I try new things, right? Based on what other people want to eat and can or cannot eat. So bring it.
Love it. Okay. Another question was, do I have to do all the meals or will it be okay if I just work on one meal at a time?
Yeah, one meal at a time. Totally.
Right.
I found most people in the last course chose to get the first few days worth of meals. because they were shopping for a few days, and that made it really easy. And oftentimes by Wednesday, Thursday, we kind of have leftovers anyway, because we're not really sure what we'll eat a lot of, how we're feeling that day. And then they'll taper down by the end of the week and maybe just use one or two more recipes in the last couple of days, just because they're kind of on a roll with, or they fall back into their old patterns, but they tweak it. They'll be like, oh, I made tacos and I added these 3 things on their own, which is great. So yeah, it's totally about your schedule and your capabilities. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one was, there's two more. No, there's three more. One was, is there any food that's eliminated on for the reset? Like any foods that are not allowed?
Besides shrimp, no. You can eat shrimp. I don't care. Just yeah, bring it to my house. No, that's a great question. I'm so glad someone asked that. When we do things like detoxes and cleanses and different kinds of sort of clearing out of, you could call it energies, you could call it nutrients, you could call it just gastrointestinal like relief. That's when some of these not allowed foods come into play more importantly. What I will invite you to do is come up with your own plan for what you do and don't want to eat. I had one gal decide to go vegetarian for the whole course and really focus on plants. She was like, I want to know how to eat all the kinds of plants so that I have vegetarian meals in my back pocket for meatless Mondays and all the things. I'm just going to do it for 3 weeks. And that was on her. Someone else was like, I really feel like gluten is a problem for me, so I think I'll give it up. You won't see a lot of gluten on the menu because it's so easy to add in, like some bread with your soup. That's, something that's easy to do. But there's one right now that's, I think, smashed chickpeas and avocado with fresh tomatoes on toast as a
Oh,
lunch. I know, really good and so simple. And tomatoes are in season. Most people have access to avocados. We highly underestimate the legumes like chickpeas, which is where all the protein and more fiber is. So you could have gluten toast, or you could have gluten-free toast, or you could choose to have it on a salad, right? And forget the grains altogether, or on your leftover quinoa that you didn't have at breakfast instead of the oats, right? So yes, we'll talk about that, but you can decide for yourselves if most of us know, don't you find this, Emily, when you're with a client, it's like, well, what do you think you need to do first? Hydrate, drink less coffee, maybe 2 cups, and I probably need to eat more vegetables. Oh, and the gluten thing, right?
yeah.
So we'll guide through that. So you're not going to see a super dairy heavy menu either, because a lot of us have challenges with dairy, but there is dairy in there. So those of us who don't eat dairy typically know how to modify for dairy.
Yeah.
We have plant-based milks, or we have plant-based yogurts, things like that. Yeah. Or we just omit cheese altogether. Yeah.
I think that brings up something I'm super looking forward to in participating is that we don't often take the time to do arrows in, whether you're busy or life is crazy or whatever's happening, to actually like focus on your own habits and your own body's responses and be so intentional about food for a minute, right? In a positive way, not an elimination, take the things out, but in a like, I am so excited for each week and the colors and to go to the grocery store and actually pick out something new than the same 5 vegetables. I know I'm a nutritionist, guys, don't judge me, but like the same 5 vegetables I pick up every stinking time and the same 3 fruits and whatever, like that I just am in this like merry-go-round of what I know how to do as opposed to spreading my wings a little bit. And you guys, in Pasco, we have like this fancy fruit for those. I think almost everybody lives here. Yeah. We have this like fancy exotic fruit place in downtown Pasco that has like dragon fruit and lychee and like all kinds of things. So like pushing that, like I'm excited. So
Awesome.
another question was I know who sent this, so this is very entertaining. Um she says, I need help kicking evening snacking slash sugar craving habit. Will this course help me? She actually says, can you fix me? Is what she actually says.
Okay, what's the habit? Sorry.
Um,
In the
sugar
chat.
craving slash
Oh.
nighttime snacking, like a snack storm in the evening.
Yeah, yeah. So as you'll see on the meal plans, there's no after dinner dessert. And this relates to the question this just came up in the chat. It's not because we can't have it. I'm not going to tell anyone what they can and cannot have or what they should or shouldn't have. Really, it's up to you and what makes you feel well. Most of us eat a lot of sugar after dinner, and that can interrupt our sleep cycles, our glucose response, all kinds of things that are supposed to be happening in our bodies when we reduce sugar between our last meal and the morning, the fasting part. So lots of times it's shifting those habits to the afternoon and then being more mindful about what those sugar cravings are all about. I just had this conversation with a client today. What are the sugar cravings? Are they, I'm freaking exhausted and I've been at my computer for 12 hours without moving my body? Did I sleep last night? Or is it this daily, oh yeah, I'm actually exhausted at the same time every day. So these awarenesses are part of this program. And when we're eating, like you said, Emily, a minute ago, which I wanted to hone in on, it's not about what we're getting rid of or eliminating. It's about what we're bringing in. So when we focus on more of these plant-based foods, there's a lot of sugar in fruit. And guess what? You'll see sugar on these meal plans because we enjoy it. And there'll be a whole separate menu for desserts that you all can try. I love dessert and we eat it every day in my house. We eat it for our afternoon snack. And it's typically a plant-based dessert or has a lot of plants incorporated into it. Whether it be nuts and seeds or dried fruit or honey, right? There's so many different ways to play with a plant, primarily plant dessert. And then we don't have the cravings later because we've already satisfied ourselves. So even though we can't usually get into the super personal stuff with everyone on this program, if that's the thing that keeps coming up over the 3 weeks, that's a great reason to have a consult with Emily and I at the end, or one of us, to talk about what's come up for you on that. But the awareness piece is often one of the first things I do with my clients is, let's talk about what those sugar cravings actually are all about, right? And so we'll guide through that. And then there's a question in the chat that is related to thoughts on how to eat enough veggies and fruits a day when intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is an umbrella term for all kinds of different ranges of not eating. So that's what the definition of fasting is. So there's like studies showing an ideal range for most people that have a certain age or who have certain goals. So it's complicated, but you can still get enough food in your day if you're only eating 8 hours of the day or 6 hours, up to 12 typically, well, up to 10 maybe with intermittent fasting. You can absolutely still have 3 nutrient dense meals. And that's where I would say veggies and fruits are just one part of the meal. That's where we scoop up the legumes, the nuts, the seeds that have the fats and protein that we need to balance out the meals and increase the caloric intake. But what we're also doing is increasing the nutrient diversity, right? If we just ate veggies all day long, who's ever been on a juice cleanse? Worst thing ever. It made me sick. It actually made me sick. I was like, I don't feel well. I can't do this. Well, I had hypoglycemia and all kinds of other things happening, right? So for me, that was not a good fit. That is not the kind of thing we're doing here. I don't even know. I think I have a couple smoothies on the first week's meal plan because I know they can be really fun. But yeah, so this is not all about just fruits and veggies. That we're really talking about the wider spectrum of plants.
I do love, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I do love, and I'm learning along with everyone else in what the plan is a little bit. although I've gotten some sneak peeks and I'm super excited, and have the overview. I think there's something about that intentionality, and I think it was James who asked. Jamie, yeah. Um, that intentionality of like, yeah, you have, if you're only eating, 3 meals or 2 meals and a snack or something like that a day, you have to be pretty intentional about what you're putting in so that you're covering all those bases. And I think that the course in particular probably really caters to that, like, hey, how do we get the most out of it? Because you can't just say, I'm going to eat a giant salad and then get all the things, because it's going to fill up all that space. Like, you can only eat so much food. And so what are creative ways to incorporate those? And I think that's really going to be part of the program, is like, here's these ways that we can add these in. If it's like really this like plant therapy reset, I think you're going to get lots of information on how to do that. Maybe you don't already know. Like, how do you, like, I never would have thought to put chickpeas. I would do like the avocado and tomato for sure on a piece of my fancy long fermented sourdough bread or something. But like, duh, like the the chickpeas, the fiber, the protein, all of the stuff that supports your hormones and makes you like get over that energy slump in the afternoon. I'm like, duh, I never would have thought to smash them up and stick them on there. Brilliant. I'm so excited.
It's brilliant. And that wasn't me, obviously, but there are
That's
really,
sweet.
I mean, but it's so easy. And the thing is,
Yeah.
that's easy. And so my goal is to field your specific questions and also not overcomplicate. So, which brings me back to something I wanted to mention earlier with one of the other questions, Emily, in terms of the meal plan. Usually by the second or third week, you all can see what we're doing with replacing processed food. I'm not even talking about which foods we're not eating. You're just looking at this menu like, oh my God, there's so much variety, and it's plant-based. And we're not even talking about the like zoodles or whatever, the noodles made out of zucchini. I don't do that. I'm not going to buy one of those spiral things. Like, who does that? Vegans do that. I never did that as a vegan. And that's fun to go out and eat that. But are most of us going to do that at home? Probably not. More props to you if you do, because it's fun. But yeah, these are really approachable and flexible. So you can play with, if I don't eat gluten, you have chickpea pasta. I think there's a pasta meal. Oh no, did I put pasta on the first? I can't even remember. But you guys, we eat pasta. So what do we do with that? Right? I'm a big fan of Taco Tuesday. So you're going to see something similar like that, where we don't have to always have a tortilla. That's what we had for dinner tonight. And I had a salad with all the stuff, the rice and the elk meat and the tomatoes and the peppers and the avocado. And I didn't need the tortilla, but then I just ripped off a piece and felt like eating it because it was good and whatever. But I didn't need all of it. And that was based on the fact that I already had that kind of processed food once today. I don't need it twice. I prefer and feel better, especially in the evening time, with more plants and less processed food. So we can play with that. That's my world. That's how I sleep better. Right. I like being hungry when I wake up, because then I get so pumped to eat breakfast because I love food. So let's see. There's a few more questions. I follow a lady who suggested roasting Japanese sweet potatoes with kimchi, and I can't stop thinking about it. Ooh, that sounds really good. I wouldn't roast the kimchi because the heat will kill all the friendly bacteria in the kimchi. So I would roast sweet potatoes and then add the kimchi at the end. I'll see if I can find something like that for one of the weeks. Let's see. Oh my gosh, sounds amazing. Prebiotics and probiotics. Oh, is that you, Em?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get into some of that too. There's so much to share about plants, and we're just not going to get through all of it in the program, because sometimes too much information is like, oh my God. But one of the testimonials from one of the participants this past program was, I loved that I could look at each module and decide whether I wanted to watch the whole video or not. And she chose very specifically like what she had time for. Like, I don't have time for all of it, and I only want to know enough. And she walked away like with so much knowledge and self empowerment with her food. And she was really struggling. She has 2 kids, a husband who doesn't cook. And she said that was the best part, was that she could take all the information she wanted and not feel bad about not having it all, not even tuning into some of it. Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I have a couple people that are already like just based on the landing page and like the information that I sent them. One is a gal that has MS and she's been trying to do the Walls protocol where it's 9 servings of vegetables a day. And she's like, holy mama, that's challenging. And so
Yeah.
she's on board. And then I have another guy who's an engineer and he is needing to lower his cholesterol. And we've talked about plant-based nutrition. Hi, sis. Plant-based things. And he needs to know the why. Like, and I love that you're gonna have those little 5-minute videos that's like, here, we're talking greens and reds, or like reds and yellows, or whatever the or color spectrum is. And he's already like, yeah, if you're gonna explain it, then I'll do it. Like, I need to know the
Cool.
why behind it. So I love that it can go everywhere from like totally hippie woo-woo, like crunchy granola energy in and out and all the things, to also like my engineer who's like, well, prove it.
Yeah.
Like, all right,
And
dude.
I love that. And one of my big goals is to have everyone loving plant foods at the end, where it's not like, oh, I didn't eat enough plants today. It's like, what should I have for dinner? Oh, I've got this that's in season. I have this that's going bad in the fridge because I thought I wanted to try it. And now I actually know what to do with it. And I'm excited to try it because it's so similar to this other thing, like there's so much potential and it's not that complicated. It's just being inspired and having the intention, like you said, and having some new energy around our food. So that's my goal, is for all of you to be curious, to inspire plant food curiosity, I should say.
I love it. We're plant
Yeah.
curious. That sounds really sketchy.
Well,
Angie
we'll
said,
eat.
will it be recorded on Sunday evening so we can watch a different night? The answer is yes. I am going to record the Zoom meetings. We hope you can make it in person because that's where the connection happens. We get that life happens. You're out of town for a weekend. That was the last question that was on my list. That was like, I for sure have to miss one of the Sundays and we're traveling one week. What happens? Like, how flexible can we be? And Jamie touched on that a little bit in her video on the landing page. I'm quite curious. And obviously people's lives are busy, right? Things happen. Sunday evenings are like Bible study or whatever it is. So we hope that you can make it live. That's awesome because it's that really connection time and live feedback. The group chat is awesome for that, messaging us after you've watched the webinar. But I think the answer is yes, right? Like there is flexibility because it's finding your ease and flow. So I'm imagining there's flexibility involved.
Yeah. And what I would say is, in my experience, people who don't attend the live calls don't go back and listen to the recordings. Like only about half of them do. So if you're gonna
Angie
miss,
would. Angie would be one that
Angie,
does, so maybe not all of them.
awesome. So if you know you're gonna miss one, or you have a sick kid, I mean, there's so many things that come up in our lives, and it is a Sunday night. Like sometimes we forget because we're in our pajamas and reading a book by that time. But if you miss it, or if you think you might miss it, schedule it into the next day. The sooner you can schedule it in, the better, because we will be talking about the habit change in the meal plan for the week, and it'll really help guide you for the rest of the week. So get up early the next morning if you can, and watch it while you're having your coffee. Another thing that I'm glad you brought this up, if you're traveling, you know me so well, if you're traveling during one of the weeks, or you're at a conference, or it's a busy work week, this is actually the perfect time to be doing this course, because what we do with our food at home typically dictates what we do with our food on the road. And when we have a plan and a focus at home, we can carry that with us. So we're building habits. So we can go to a conference and be like, oh, sure, I could eat the, what do they have at conferences? I'm trying to picture the last conference we went to. I'm
All
thinking
our
of,
conferences are nutrition conferences.
I
That
know,
doesn't
but
count.
the food was good at the last one. The snacks were to be not great, but let's just say you're at a hotel and it's a continental breakfast and it's like
Biscuits and
Costco
gravy.
croissants and
Yeah.
biscuits and gravy. You might be like, well, I don't really want that, but there's yogurt and granola and they'll add some extra nuts and seeds. And that's really similar to what's on the meal plan, right? And I feel better when I eat that than these other foods. And maybe I'll have one piece of sausage, right? So you get to make these choices that are right for you in your scenario. You may also be on a trip and decide to eat out for dinner, but make your breakfast and lunches at home because you went to the farmer's market or the local grocery store with all the other Howleys. I'm just picturing the store I went to in Hawaii with my kids a few years ago. And it was a godsend because I was like, okay, I'm going to make this on this night and this on this night. And here's all this fresh food like pineapple that I could put on in my smoothie instead of whatever Jamie had on the menu, right? So that's where we can get playful. And what I have in my area is probably what you have in your area because it's 2023 and everything's the same everywhere. Kind of. And then we get to play. Like, do you have a garden? Do you have a farmer's market that's still going on? Are we in the Northern Hemisphere? Most of us, yeah. So, variability is really Emily knows this about me. I have all my farmers on speed dial. Like, well, when are you going to be in town next? Do you have any more wheat berries? Do you have, I just used my last chicken. And they're like, oh, I'm coming into town in 2 weeks because I am obsessed with local food. So I highly encourage that in your worlds as well, whenever, if that resonates with you. And if it doesn't, that's okay too, because we have grocery stores for everything else. So yeah.
Awesome.
Good, be good.
Yes, I think so. So I'm going to send the link for booking if you want in the chat, and then we'll also send out the replay of this video tomorrow to the 16 other people that weren't here that signed up for the
And I have
information.
2 more. I just got a message that they couldn't get into the
If you're like,
webinar.
we can't figure it
I'm like, really?
out. So we do have booking limits on this because we're offering the 30-minute consult at the end, and a group that has like 40 people in it is not really a small group anymore. We can't answer all the questions. We can't recommend customized things. We can't like be on top of everything. It doesn't have that same feel, right? So we do want a group structure because of that community and an inspiration. And like, I'm going to post some pictures of my stuff that I'm making, and I hope you post pictures of your stuff. So if you are interested in the next couple of days, I would recommend signing up. We will close enrollment, obviously, when, the end of September, so soonish. And then we'll close it when it hits that enrollment cap as well. If you have more questions, please ask. Send us a message if you didn't ask them here. If you're like, oh, I super want to do this, it's not the right time, or like I don't know, whatever it is, or if you have specific questions about your goal outcomes and make sure that this is the right fit for you. I love that it's catered to like you set your own intention. You create, yourself better, right, than we do. And so what are those habits and those pieces that are going to change with the habit tracker and all those things that she has involved? I think I put a typo in there, but I'm sending it anyways. So I'm gonna stop the recording since the link is live. And then if you guys want to hang out or ask more questions, you totally can. If you want to peace out and enjoy your quiet evening, you can as well. Our kids are all stirring now, so they're all like ready for us to be done.
That's why my daughter was like,
She's
Mom,
like, come on, you said 1 hour.
you should have been asleep by now.
Right.